The memory isn't mine, not really. It's a story told to me so many times, in hushed, frantic whispers in the dead of night, that it feels like a phantom limb, a part of me that was amputated before I was ever whole. It lives in the marrow of my father's fear, a ghost story with real ghosts. San Miguel, Mexico, 1998. The air in the evening market was a thick, living thing, a tapestry woven from the smoke of grilling meats, the sharp perfume of chili peppers, and the sweet, cloying scent of overripe mangoes. Lanterns cast a warm, flickering glow over pyramids of spices and stalls draped with colorful textiles. The festive cacophony of a mariachi band competed with the haggle and chatter of the crowd, a symphony of a city that never slept. My parents, Arthur and Sarah Bishop, were young, hopelessly American, and high on the dizzying freedom of being somewhere entirely different. My mother was 7 months pregnant with me, a fact she couldn't hide, her hand resting almost constantly on the curve of her belly as they navigated the throng. They were leaving, wallets lighter and bags heavier with trinkets, when the symphony of the market seemed to stutter and fall silent around them. An old woman blocked their path. She was a creature carved from ancient weathered wood. Cataracts had turned her eyes into twin pools of curdled milk, yet she seemed to see more than anyone. Her skin was a roadmap of wrinkles, stretched thin over sharp cheekbones, but when her lips pulled back, her teeth were a shock of brilliant, unnaturally perfect white. In her gnarled hand, she gripped a cane made of a strange, twisted wood, like a petrified snake. My father, Arthur, a man who measured the world in spreadsheets and stock prices, saw only a nuisance, a professional beggar, skilled in the art of invoking pity. He fumbled in his pocket, the pragmatist trying to solve a problem with the simplest tool. He extended his hand, a few peso coins glinting in the lantern light. The old woman didn't take them. Instead, she swung her cane with a speed that defied her age. The wood cracked against the back of my father's hand, a sharp punishing sound. The coins scattered across the cobblestones, ringing like tiny dying bells. Her voice, when it came, was a dry hiss, English fractured and sharp. "No," she rasped, her blind eyes fixed on my mother's stomach. "Not your silver. The eyes of the child. A tribute." It wasn't a request. It was a demand, spoken with the weight of a ritual as old as the stones under their feet. Sarah gasped, stumbling back, her hands flying to shield me from the woman's sightless gaze. The protective gesture, the primal fear, ignited my father's temper. He was a man who believed in order, in cause and effect, and this was chaos. This was madness. "Get the hell away from us," he snarled, shoving the old woman. It wasn't a hard push, but she was frail, and she staggered back, her uncanny smile never faltering. He grabbed my mother's arm and pulled her away, his voice loud and angry. "Leave us alone, you crazy old hag!" They hurried down the dark alley, the sounds of the market fading behind them. They didn't look back, but they heard her. She didn't shout or scream. Her voice was low, clear, and carried a chilling finality as it slithered through the darkness. A string of Spanish, quiet and deliberate. "Que la luna reclame su carne y sus ojos sean míos. May the moon claim his flesh and his eyes be mine." Months later, I was born in a sterile, sensible hospital in Connecticut. I was a perfectly healthy baby boy, 8 pounds, 7 ounces, 10 fingers, 10 toes, 2 clear blue eyes. The incident in Mexico became a strange travel story, a piece of unsettling local color they'd embellished in their minds. The memory faded, as such things do, bleached out by the relentless sun of ordinary life. Diapers, first steps, little league, homework. Years passed. I grew up quiet, a little withdrawn, the kind of kid who preferred books to parties. But nothing was wrong with me. The curse was forgotten, buried under 2 decades of normalcy. Until my 16th birthday. The full moon that night was obscene. A huge silver dollar pasted onto the black velvet sky, so bright it washed out the stars and cast long, skeletal shadows through my bedroom window. I felt sick. A deep, agonizing ache had settled in my bones, a feverish heat that no amount of Tylenol could touch. I told my parents it was the flu, locked my door, and collapsed into bed, my body shivering and burning at once. Then the pain truly began. It wasn't sickness, it was deconstruction. My bones began to shift, to move with a series of wet, percussive cracks, like a tree limb breaking in slow motion. I screamed as my shoulder blades tore from their sockets, pushing outward, elongating. My spine buckled, arching backward at an impossible angle. I could feel my skin stretching, thinning, then tearing as coarse black hair erupted from every pore, pushing through my flesh like iron filings. My face. God, my face. My jaw unhinged and stretched forward, the cartilage of my nose cracking and reshaping into a snout. The pain was a white-hot supernova that consumed thought, reason, and self. The last thing I knew was the sound of my own voice. No longer a boy's scream, but a guttural, half-formed howl of pure agony before the universe dissolved into blackness. I awoke to the gray light of dawn. I was naked, sprawled on the hardwood floor of my ruined room. A metallic, coppery smell filled the air. My body ached with a profound muscular exhaustion, but the seismic agony was gone. I didn't remember anything, just a black void filled with a screaming red rage. Then I saw her. My mother was lying near the door. Her nightgown was shredded, her body ravaged. Her eyes, the same blue as mine, were wide with a final, uncomprehending terror. A pool of dark blood was spreading from her, staining the floorboards. The bedroom door burst open. My father stood there, his face a mask of sleep-fuddled confusion that in a single horrifying second melted into an expression of dawning absolute dread. It wasn't just horror in his eyes, it was recognition. The memory of a market in Mexico, of a quiet, hissed promise, came crashing back into him with the force of a physical blow. Adrenaline, pure and undiluted, took over. He didn't scream. He didn't break down. He moved. With a guttural cry, he grabbed a desk chair and hurled it through my bedroom window, shattering the glass. He overturned my bookshelf, scattering my life across the floor. He scraped his own arms against the jagged edge of the broken window frame, drawing blood. Then he dialed 911, his voice a masterpiece of controlled panic, and told the dispatcher that a black bear had broken into our house. The police were skeptical, but our Connecticut suburb wasn't exactly a hotbed of violent crime. A freak animal attack was more plausible than the monstrous, unthinkable truth. The official story stuck. And while the town mourned, my father went to work. Our basement, once a place for storage and laundry, became my prison. He reinforced the walls, installed a solid steel door with a heavy-duty deadbolt, and lined the room with soundproofing foam. His life, once dedicated to financial markets, was now singularly focused on the esoteric and the arcane. He devoured books on folklore, lycanthropy, occultism, and forgotten religions. The internet became his hunting ground for scraps of information, for anyone else who had whispered about a similar affliction. He taught me to control it, or rather to endure it. Anchor thoughts, he called them. He made me sit in the dark, chained to a bolt in the concrete floor, and focus on a single, human sensation. The smell of pine sap from a piece of wood, the memory of cold earth on my bare feet, the feeling of my own human hands, fingers laced together. These were the mental breakwaters meant to hold back the tide of animalistic rage. It was a desperate, flimsy defense against an ocean of fury. For 8 years, I have lived a life measured in lunar cycles, a life of perpetual guilt for a crime I cannot remember, and a constant gnawing fear of the beast that lives behind my eyes. The 8 years since my mother's death have stretched and compressed time in strange ways. In some ways, I'm still that 16-year-old boy, waking up to a nightmare. In others, I feel ancient. My world has shrunk to the size of a fiber optic cable and a steel reinforced door. At 24, I am a ghost in the machine, a successful remote software engineer whose colleagues know him only as a username and a block of efficient code. My social life is a flatline. The fear of what I am, of what I could do, is a wall I've built around myself, higher and more secure than the one in the basement. Through my father's grim tutelage, I've honed my control. It's not a cure, not even close. But now, when the change comes, a sliver of me, of Finn, remains. I can think tactically. I can solve problems, but the beast is always there, a rabid dog straining at the end of a very short leash. Its fury a constant snarling presence in the back of my mind. My only real connection to the world, my only confidant, is Arthur. He is my warden, my mentor, and the only other person on Earth who knows my secret. His search for the witch from San Miguel never ended. It became his life's work, a frantic, obsessive crusade for an absolution he felt he could never earn. 2 weeks ago, his breakthrough came. An encrypted email appeared in my inbox, the subject line simply reading, "Eyes." Inside, there was no greeting, just a block of text. He wrote of a small, forgotten town called Havenwood, nestled in the Appalachian Mountains of West Virginia. He mentioned whispers he'd tracked down through occult forums and folklore archives, stories of a place the locals called Crow Creek Gorge, a place where the trees weep blood. He'd found others, he wrote, people from different parts of the country, all bearing similar curses, all tracing their misfortune back to a blind old woman with unnaturally white teeth. They were gathering, preparing an expedition to confront her. He was going to end this. For me, for my mother. That was the last I heard from him. His phone goes straight to voicemail. My emails bounce back, undelivered. A cold, familiar dread, the same kind I feel on the evening of a full moon, has taken root in my gut. He's gone. He walked into the lion's den, and the lion has not let him out. I have to go. The next full moon is in 3 days. For the first time in my life, I'm not dreading it. I'm going to use it. The monster he taught me to chain up is the only tool I have that might bring him back. The preparation is a grim, practiced ritual. A heavy-duty backpack, durable, earth-toned clothing that won't tear easily. A high-lumen flashlight, a comprehensive first aid kit. My GPS is loaded with the last coordinates Arthur sent, a pinpoint in the sprawling green wilderness of the Monongahela National Forest. Tucked alongside my supplies is the old Remington 870 shotgun he taught me to use, and the hunting knife he gave me for my 18th birthday. The blade is inlaid with silver, not as a weapon against my own kind. He knew that was a myth, but as a talisman. A tool. Direct contact with silver is agonizing for us, a white-hot burn that can disrupt the beast's focus. It's a last resort, an emergency brake. Havenwood is exactly as depressing as I'd imagined. It's a town dying a slow, quiet death. The paint on the clapboard storefronts is peeling, revealing gray, weathered wood beneath. For lease signs hang in dusty windows like tombstones. The few people on the street watch my Connecticut-plated sedan roll by with a mixture of disinterest and open suspicion. This is a place that doesn't like outsiders. The air smells of coal dust and damp leaves, and the whole town seems to be sagging under the weight of the vast, dark mountains that surround it. I find the only place that looks open, a bar called the Rusty Pick. The handful of patrons, all older men with worn-out faces, fall silent when I walk in. I order a beer I don't want and ask the grizzled bartender if he's seen a man in his late 50s, an out-of-towner, asking a lot of questions. The bartender grunts, wiping a glass with a dirty rag. "Asking questions is a good way to find trouble in these parts," he says, not looking at me. He jerks his chin toward a man sitting alone in a booth in the corner. "You want Sheriff Brody." Brody looks as weary as the town he serves. His uniform is rumpled, his face is lined with fatigue, and he nurses a cup of black coffee like it's the only thing keeping him upright. He listens to my description of Arthur without interruption. "Yeah, I remember him," Brody says, his voice a low rumble. "Your dad, he was intense. Came in here a couple of weeks ago asking about ghost stories, old legends, the Witch of Crow Creek Gorge." He takes a slow sip of coffee, his eyes meeting mine over the rim of the cup. "I told him what I tell everyone. Don't go into those woods. People go missing up in that gorge. And it ain't bears that get 'em, kid. It's something worse." He leans forward slightly. "Whatever you're looking for, it ain't worth it. Turn around and go home." I thank him for his time and leave. His warning hangs in the air, but it doesn't change a thing. I drive my car to a secluded spot on the edge of town, hidden by a stand of pine trees. The sun is already dipping below the jagged peaks of the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and blood red. The hour is coming. Following the GPS on my phone, I walk into the forest. The coordinates lead me to a small clearing by a rushing creek. This was supposed to be his camp. There's a fire pit, long, cold, and some flattened grass where a tent once stood, but nothing else. No gear, no father, no sign of a struggle. It's just empty. The last of the sun's light vanishes. A familiar, agonizing ache begins in my joints. There's no time. I strip off my clothes, folding them methodically and placing them, along with my pack and the shotgun, into a waterproof dry bag I shove under the roots of a fallen tree. I stand naked in the deepening twilight, the cold air raising goosebumps on my skin. The moon, a perfect luminous circle, rises above the treetops. I clench my fists, dig my bare feet into the damp soil, and prepare for the pain, focusing on my anchor. The smell of the earth, rich and loamy, and the sharp, clean scent of pine. This time, I won't let it take me. This time, I am the hunter. The change begins as a tremor deep within my bones. It's a familiar agony, but familiarity doesn't dull the edge. It starts in the spine, a sickening ripple as vertebrae unlock and shift. I fall to my knees, a gasp tearing from my throat as my ribs strain and pop, expanding my chest cavity. My anchor, the scent of damp soil and pine needles, is my only lifeline in a tsunami of pain. I cling to it, focusing my human mind on that single sensory input, while the architecture of my body is violently dismantled and rebuilt. I am Finn. This is my body. This pain is temporary. I am in control. The transformation is almost complete. My vision has sharpened, the world exploding into a million distinct shades of gray and silver under the moonlight. My hearing is a sensitive instrument, picking up the frantic heartbeat of a field mouse 100 feet away. The beast's rage is a roaring fire in my chest, demanding release, demanding blood. But for the first time, I am holding it at bay, keeping a fragile grip on the steering wheel. I haven't even risen to my full height when the attack comes. A black shape explodes from the underbrush, a hurricane of fur and fury. It's another one. Larger than me, its fur the color of coal, its eyes burning with a feral, uncontrolled fire. There is no thought in its movements, only primal, instinctual violence. It hits me like a freight train, a guttural roar ripping through the night as its claws rake across my shoulder. We tumble across the clearing, a maelstrom of snapping teeth and tearing claws. The world becomes a blur of motion, the scent of my own blood mingling with the musk of my attacker. This isn't a dance. It's a meat grinder. The beast inside me screams for me to answer in kind, to rip out its throat, to establish dominance through brute force. But the sliver of fin that remains sees something else. In the other wolf's eyes, beneath the red haze of rage, I see terror, I see confusion and agony. This is not a monster. This is a victim just like me, lost in the storm. Incapacitate. Do not kill. The sounds of our battle are horrific. The sharp crack of breaking branches, the wet tear of flesh, the deep-chested snarls and high-pitched yelps of pain echo through the silent forest. The smaller creatures have long since fled. We are the only two things moving in this part of the woods, and our violence is a beacon in the quiet dark. A cold prickle runs down my newly formed spine. Something else is out there. I can feel it. A cold, ancient attention has been drawn to our struggle. We are being watched. I use my smaller size, my tactical mind to my advantage. I don't meet its charges head-on. I dodge, I weave, I let its momentum carry it past me, and then I strike, aiming for legs and shoulders. I lure it into a thicket of young saplings, the dense wood restricting its powerful lunges. The fight drags on, an eternity measured in heartbeats. My body screams with exhaustion. Deep gashes weep on my shoulder and across my flank. The pain a constant throbbing reminder of my mortality. The other wolf is slowing too, its movements growing sluggish, its powerful snaps becoming wilder, less accurate. Then I see it, a subtle shift in the quality of the light. The oppressive silver of the moon begins to soften, giving way to the cold, gray promise of dawn. Our time is running out. The curse's hold is weakening. With the last of my strength, I faint left, and as the larger wolf commits, I drive low and hard from the right. I slam my full weight into its side, knocking it off its feet. It lands with a heavy thud, the air rushing from its lungs. I don't go for the throat. I plant my paws on its chest, my weight pinning it to the forest floor, my jaws inches from its face, and I hold it there. A low growl rumbles in my chest, a warning, not a threat. The agony of the reverse transformation hits us both at the same time. It's a convulsive, full-body seizure as the lupine form is crushed back into its human container. Muscles contract, bones grind and reset, fur recedes into screaming skin. It's a brutal, undignified rebirth. We lie there, twitching and groaning on the cold, damp earth as our monstrous forms melt away. The sun crests the ridge, bathing the clearing in weak morning light. I push myself up, my human body slick with blood, mud, and sweat. My wounds burn. Before me, sprawled in the dirt, is not a monster, but a man. He looks to be about my age, maybe younger, his skin covered in the same mixture of grime and blood. His black hair is matted to his skull, and his sharp, handsome features hint at Native American ancestry. He pushes himself onto his elbows, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear, pain, and utter disbelief. He is Joe Blackwood, and our night of shared horror has only just begun. The silence in the clearing is heavy, broken only by the chirping of birds returning to the trees and our own ragged, pained breaths. For a long moment, we just stare at each other. Two naked, bloody strangers who had spent the last several hours trying to tear each other apart. The animalistic fury is gone, replaced by a raw human vulnerability. Pushing through the fire in my muscles, I crawl to the tree where I stashed my gear. I pull out a spare t-shirt and a pair of sweatpants, tossing them to the other man. He flinches as they land near him, his eyes wary. I then grab my canteen and a sterile washcloth from my first aid kit, offering them to him. "Here," I say, my voice a dry croak. "Water." He watches me for a long, tense moment, then slowly, cautiously takes the canteen. His name, I learn as we tend to our wounds, is Joe. Joe Blackwood. As he haltingly tells his story, the pieces of a terrifying puzzle begin to click into place. He's from a small reservation town in Texas. A week ago, he was working a construction gig, framing a new house under the blistering sun. During their lunch break, an old woman appeared at the edge of the site, blind, with a gnarled cane and teeth that were too damn white. She didn't ask for money. She looked at him, at his youth and strength, and asked him to give his strong heart as a gift. He and his buddies had laughed, told the crazy old lady to move along. He didn't think anything of it until 3 nights later, under a full moon in the Texas desert. He described the same bone-breaking agony, the same red-hazed blackout. He woke up 20 miles from his pickup truck, naked, covered in scratches, with the mangled carcass of a coyote lying not 10 feet away. He remembered nothing. In a state of sheer panic, he'd done what any tech-savvy person his age would do. He turned to the internet. He typed in every combination of his symptoms he could think of. Blackouts, full moon, unnatural strength, memory loss. He eventually stumbled across a small, obscure blog, long dormant, called The Lunar Journals. My blood runs cold. "My father's blog," I whisper. Joe nods, his eyes wide. He never used his real name, but he described it all. Perfectly. The pain, the rage, the fear. He gestures around the clearing. His last post from a few weeks ago was different. It wasn't just research. It was a call to arms. He posted these coordinates, said he was meeting others here, in the Appalachians. Said it was time to end it. It was my only lead. I drained my savings, bought a junker car, and drove 3 days straight to get here. A wave of bitter irony washes over me. My father's desperate message, meant to gather allies, had inadvertently sicked a newly turned, terrified werewolf on the very son he was trying to save. He taught me, I say, my voice quiet, for years, how to hold on. He called them anchor thoughts. I explained the techniques, the desperate mental exercises to maintain a sliver of human consciousness inside the beast. The rage is a trap. It makes you predictable. It makes you a slave to the instinct. You have to fight it from the inside. Joe listens with a desperate intensity, like a drowning man being thrown a rope. For the first time since this nightmare began for him, he's not alone. He's looking at someone who has walked the same bloody path and survived. A fragile, unspoken alliance forms between us, forged in shared trauma and the grim understanding that we are each other's only hope. We use my first aid kit to clean and bandage our wounds. The deep gashes on my shoulder and his leg are ugly, but they already seem to be healing at an unnatural rate. Another charming perk of the curse. "So, what's the plan?" Joe asks, his voice gaining a bit of strength. "We follow my father's trail," I say, my jaw tightening. "We find his main camp. We find out what happened to him and the others. And then we find her. I check the action on my Remington. The smooth metallic shakshk of the pump is a small comfort. Joe retrieves his own weapon from a hidden pack, a sawed-off 12-gauge, old and worn but clearly well-maintained. We are two cursed men, armed and wounded, standing in a forest that feels increasingly wrong. As we begin to move deeper into the woods, following the faint trail leading from the clearing, the change is subtle at first. The birdsong seems to mute as we pass. The air grows still and heavy, charged with a strange static energy. And then we see them. Carved into the bark of the ancient silent trees are symbols. Crude spirals that seem to spin if you look at them too long. And eyes. Dozens of single staring eyes etched into the wood, watching us pass. The forest knows we are here, and it does not approve. The deeper we walk, the more the forest transforms. The vibrant greens of the outer woods fade to a sick, bruised palette of grays and browns. The trees become gnarled, their branches twisting together overhead to form a suffocating canopy that chokes the sunlight. It's more than just a lack of light. It's a lack of life. The constant hum of insects is gone. The rustle of small animals in the undergrowth has ceased. The only sounds are the crunch of our boots on the dead leaves and the thumping of our own hearts. The silence is a physical presence, pressing in on us, breeding a paranoia that makes every shadow seem to writhe. After an hour of tense hiking, we stumble upon a warning. Nailed to a massive black-barked oak is a rusted metal sign, its official lettering barely legible. U.S. Forest Service, area closed, unstable geology. But it's the second message, scratched furiously into the metal with what must have been a nail or a knife tip, that freezes us in place. They watch, turn back. We exchange a look. Turning back isn't an option. We find the camp half a mile later. It's nestled on a rocky bluff overlooking the dark maw of Crow Creek Gorge, or what's left of the camp. A large 4-person tent is slashed to ribbons. Gear, a knocked-over camp stove, scattered tin plates, a sleeping bag half pulled from its stuff sack, is strewn across the site as if a tornado ripped through. The fire pit is cold, the ashes stirred by the wind. There's a faint, sharp smell in the air, like ozone after a lightning strike, layered over a cloying scent of decay. This wasn't just abandoned, it was attacked. "Finn, over here," Joe calls, his voice low. I find him crouched by the ruined tent. He pulls back a flap, and there, wedged beneath a discarded pack, is a mud-spattered, leather-bound journal. My father's journal. My hands tremble as I open it. Most of it is what I expected. Meticulous, academic. Pages are filled with his neat, blocky handwriting, documenting local folklore, transcribing stories of a skinwalker or hollow-eyed woman who has haunted these mountains for centuries. There are detailed sketches of the symbols we saw on the trees, cross-referenced with similar markings from other cultures. Maps of the gorge are annotated with question marks and circled areas. He was closing in. I flip to the end. The last entry. The handwriting is completely different. It's a frantic, jagged scrawl. The pen dug so hard into the paper it almost tore through. October 12th. We found it. God help us. We found her lair. Deeper in the gorge, hidden behind a waterfall of black, stagnant water. It's not just her. She has guardians, things that should not exist. We saw one at dusk, a thing of rock and rage. David panicked, fired his rifle. The sound, it woke the rest. The air is filled with them now. Flying things, like birds, but their faces. The writing becomes almost illegible. They're coming. We can hear them in the trees. The stories were all wrong. They weren't warnings, they were invitations. She feeds on fear. I have to get this too. The next line is what stops my heart. Finn, if you are reading this, the curse isn't in the blood. It's in the soul. It's a parasite that latches onto your fear. You have to understand. Don't be afraid of the beast inside you. When the time comes, trust its instincts. She doesn't take body parts. She takes... The sentence cuts off. The rest of the page is smeared with a large, dark brown stain. Dried blood. As I stare at the final, aborted message, a low vibration starts under my feet. It's a deep, rhythmic tremor, like a giant heartbeat shaking the very rock of the mountain. From the direction of the gorge, a sound reaches us. A guttural, grinding roar that sounds less like an animal and more like two boulders being scraped together. We snatch up our weapons, our eyes scanning the dense tree line. Joe mutters a quiet, "What the hell was that?" The answer emerges from behind a cluster of massive rocks 50 yards away. It is obscenely huge, easily 10 feet tall. Its skin is a mottled, lumpy gray-green, the texture of rough-hewn stone. It has two heads, perched on a single thick neck. The left head is brutish and dull, its eyes vacant, drool leaking from its tusked jaw. The right head, however, is chillingly intelligent. Its eyes, small and black, burn with a malevolent ancient hatred as they fixate on us. Its arms are as thick as tree trunks, and its fingers are tipped with long, yellowed claws of bone. The two-headed troll lets out another stone-grinding roar, a sound that vibrates in my chest and lumbers toward us, its heavy footfalls shaking the ground. Run! The word is a raw burst of air from my lungs. There is no thought, no strategy, only the primal lizard brain instinct to get away from the thing that is coming to kill us. We pivot and bolt, crashing through the undergrowth as the forest floor trembles with the troll's pursuit. It's deceptively fast for its size, each stride covering 10 feet. The sound of it smashing through young trees like they're matchsticks, a terrifying percussion behind us. On the run, I risk a glance back, shoulder the Remington, and fire. The blast of the 12-gauge buckshot is deafening. The pellets pepper the troll's chest, but they might as well be spitballs. They ricochet off its stony hide, leaving shallow, smoking pockmarks, and a furious earth-shaking roar. It only made it angrier. The sun is dying. The forest is sinking into a deep, oppressive twilight as the sky bleeds from orange to a bruised purple. The moon, not yet visible, is a lurking presence. I feel the first telltale throb in my bones, the familiar prelude to the agony. A desperate, insane idea sparks in my mind. "Joe," I yell, my voice strained. "We need to buy time, just a few more minutes." He understands immediately. We split up, veering in opposite directions. The troll, momentarily confused, slows its advance. Its two heads seem to argue, one looking toward me, the other toward Joe, before the more intelligent head wins out and it continues its lumbering pursuit of me. I'm dodging between massive ancient oaks when the change hits, and it hits hard. There's no time to prepare, no time for anchors. A wave of agony cripples me, and I collapse mid-stride. My vision blurs as my skeleton begins its violent reconfiguration. The troll, seeing my sudden vulnerability, lets out a triumphant roar and closes the distance, raising a massive clawed hand to crush me. From the trees to my right, another scream of pain echoes through the woods. Joe is going through the same hell. Just as the troll's shadow falls over me, the transformation finishes. The world snaps back into sharp, moon-bleached focus. The beast's rage is a white-hot furnace, but my father's last words echo in the sliver of my human mind. Trust its instincts. The troll's foot, the size of a manhole cover, comes down. I don't think. I react. I explode sideways, a blur of black fur, the foot smashing the ground where my head had been moments before. At the same instant, another wolf, larger, grayer, and radiating pure ferocity, bursts from the trees and joins the fray. Joe, we don't need to communicate. We are a pack. The instincts my father told me to trust are screaming commands. We move as one. I am faster, more agile. I dart in, my fangs sinking into the thick, corded muscle and tendon above the troll's ankle. It's like biting into leather-wrapped concrete, but I hold on, tearing and ripping. Joe, the bruiser, uses his greater mass. He leaps, his powerful jaws locking onto the troll's thigh, and uses his weight to try and unbalance the creature. The troll bellows in pain and fury, swatting at us like we're horseflies. It swings its huge arms, smashing trees to splinters. The dull-witted head snaps blindly, its tusks grazing my back, while the smarter head tries to track our lightning-fast movements. This isn't a fight of individual strength. It's the cold, lethal efficiency of a predator pack at work. We are not wild animals lost to rage. We are hunters. I feel the sinew in its leg begin to give way under the pressure of my jaws. With a final, desperate wrench of my neck, I sever its Achilles tendon. The troll shrieks, a sound of stone grinding against stone, and its leg buckles. It stumbles, falling to one knee with a ground-shaking impact. That's the opening Joe needs. As the troll kneels, one of its heads is brought down to his level. He releases its leg, lunges upward, and sinks his fangs deep into the throat of the intelligent head. He braces his paws and rips backward with all his might. There is no blood. A thick, black ichor, viscous as tar and smelling of sulfur, gushes from the wound. The troll's intelligent head goes limp, its malevolent eyes rolling back. The other head lets out a final, mournful, terrifying howl that is part pain, part fear. It shoves us away with a final, desperate sweep of its arm, sending us tumbling. Then, staggering, dragging its ruined leg, it retreats, crashing back through the woods toward the gorge, leaving a steaming trail of black slime in its wake. The battle is over. We stand panting in the ruined clearing, wounded but victorious. And we both know with chilling certainty that this was just the guard dog. Dawn finds us in human form, our bodies a geography of pain. We are covered in cuts, bruises, and a foul black slime from the troll that stings the skin like acid. We wash ourselves as best we can in a freezing mountain stream, the cold water a welcome shock that helps clear our heads. There's no talk of turning back. Seeing my father's ring isn't an option, it's a necessity. We have to know. We follow the troll's trail of destruction deeper into the gorge. The forest here is not just dying, it's damned. The trees are skeletal, their bark blackened and peeling as if from a fire that left no scorch marks. The ground is a carpet of gray, sterile ash where nothing grows. The silence is a crushing weight, absolute and profound. There is no wind, no birdsong, no life. It's a vacuum. The silence is shattered by a sound from above. A single, loud caw, then another and another, until the air is filled with the frantic, discordant croaking of 1,000 crows. A vast black cloud of them begins to circle in the ashen sky above us. But their flight pattern is wrong. It's not the graceful soaring of birds. It's jerky, chaotic, and unnatural. As they spiral lower, my blood turns to ice. Joe sees it at the same moment, a choked gasp escaping his lips. Where the bird's head should be, there are faces. They are miniature, grotesquely distorted human faces, stretched and pinched into avian shapes. Their skin is pale and waxy, their lips move, whispering silently, and their tiny eyes, wide with an eternity of suffering, roll frantically in their sockets. Crow faces, my father had written, souls of lost travelers, trapped by the witch. They are a living, flying testament to her evil. Then the entire flock dives. It's not an attack meant to kill, but to break us. They don't peck or bite. Their claws, sharp as razors, slice at our exposed skin, leaving thin, bleeding lines on our arms and faces. But the physical pain is nothing compared to the sound. As they swarm around us, their tiny mouths whisper. It's a cacophony of voices, a chorus of the damned, all speaking at once, their words burrowing directly into our minds. Run! She sees you. Lost. So lost. The eyes. She takes the eyes. Turn back before she makes you one of us. It's a psychological assault, a storm of terror and despair designed to shatter the will. Joe cries out and fires his sawed-off into the cloud of them. The buckshot passes through the flock as if through smoke, causing them to momentarily disperse with a collective shriek before coalescing again. They are not entirely physical. I grab his arm. Don't waste the shells, we have to get through them. We put our heads down and run, shielding our faces with our arms. The whispers intensify, 1,000 tiny voices of madness screaming in our ears. We stumble through the dead woods, tripping over roots, our only goal to push forward, to escape the suffocating cloud of winged misery. Just when I think my mind is about to splinter, we burst through the tree line and into a wide, circular clearing. The moment we cross the threshold into the open space, the crow faces pull back. They refuse to enter, circling the perimeter of the clearing with frustrated, angry caws, their whispers fading. We stand in the center of the clearing, gasping for breath, our bodies and minds savaged, and we see what they were guarding. In the middle of the dead, ashen field stands the source of all this horror. It's a low, crooked cabin, built from logs so dark and ancient they look petrified. The whole structure leans to one side as if the very earth is trying to shrug it off. No smoke rises from the crude stone chimney, but a palpable cold radiates from it, a damp cellar-like chill that has nothing to do with the mountain air. Beside the cabin grows a single colossal tree, utterly dead, its skeletal branches reaching for the gray sky like a claw. And the tree is decorated. Hanging from its thick, black limbs are dozens of cages, crudely woven from branches, vines, and yellowed, splintered bone. Most are filled with the skeletal remains of animals, deer, bears, wolves. But several, hanging more prominently, hold human skeletons, picked clean, their bones bleached white against the dark wood. It's a gallery of death, a gruesome monument to the witch's long and bloody reign. A cold, hard knot of dread and fury tightens in my stomach. I scan the cages, my eyes moving from one to the next, praying I don't find what I'm looking for. Then I see it. In a cage hanging higher than the others, a glint of silver catches the weak light. I squint, my heart hammering against my ribs. It's a man's skeleton, and on the bone of the ring finger of its left hand is a heavy silver ring etched with a Celtic knot. My father's ring. The world tilts. The air rushes from my lungs. The faint, desperate hope I hadn't even let myself acknowledge, that he might still be alive, a prisoner, is extinguished in an instant. All that's left is a hollow ache and a rising, volcanic rage. He came here to save me, and this is what he got for it. A cage of bones, a trophy on a monster's tree. Finn. Joe's voice is soft but urgent. He's trying to pull my gaze away from the horrifying sight. "Finn, look at this one." He's pointing to another cage closer to the ground. It's empty, but looks newer than the others, the branches less weathered. Carved into one of the flat wooden slats of its door are 3 words, clearly gouged with a knife in a moment of frantic haste. It's another message, another clue from the dead. The real one has no eyes. We stare at the words, the meaning hanging just out of reach. A warning from my father, or one of his doomed party. It's the last piece of his legacy, his final weapon left for me to find. As if on cue, a sound drifts from within the crooked cabin. It's a soft, rhythmic scraping, followed by a low, wet muttering. Then another sound, a strange, slapping noise like wet laundry being dropped onto a stone floor. Flap, flap, slap. The sun is beginning its descent, the light fading fast. Night is coming. And with it, the moon. We can't wait. We can't face whatever is in there after dark, not knowing its full power. We have to end this now in the light. My grief congeals into cold, hard resolve. This is no longer about breaking a curse. This is about vengeance. I pull back the slide on the Remington, chambering around. The sound is loud and final in the dead air. Joe gives the pump on his own shotgun a hard, affirmative clack. We exchange a single, determined look. No words are necessary. The plan is simple. Kick in the door. Kill the witch. Burn this place to the ground. We walk across the ashen clearing, our boots making no sound. We stop before the flimsy, warped wooden door. I take a deep breath, the cold air burning my lungs, and raise my foot. The door splinters inward with a wet, rotten crack. I follow it into the cabin's single, cavernous room, Joe right at my heels. The stench hits us first, a thick, nauseating mix of rot, dust, and the sharp electric tang of ozone. It's a tomb that thinks it's alive. The room is dark, lit only by the gray light from the doorway and cracks in the walls. And the walls are moving. Dozens of small, hideous creatures crawl across the floor, the walls, the ceiling beams. They are like gargoyles the size of large cats, their bodies covered in patches of coarse, mange-like fur. Their front limbs are leathery, bat-like wings, which they use to scrabble across the surfaces with that wet, slapping sound we heard outside. In the center of the room, her back to us, is the old woman. The witch. It's her. The same stooped figure from my father's stories, the same architect of my ruined life. She turns, slowly, her movements unnaturally fluid. The milky, cataract-filmed eyes, the parchment skin, the terrifyingly white teeth revealed in a wide, knowing smile. "At last," she hisses, her voice like dry leaves skittering across pavement. Her blind eyes seem to bore directly into me. "You have brought me your father's spirit. A fine tribute. Now you will give me his son's eyes." There is no hesitation, no clever retort. My rage is a physical force. I bring the Remington to my shoulder and fire. The cabin rocks with the explosion, the buckshot tearing a ragged hole in the witch's chest. She stumbles back a step, a look of annoyance on her ancient face. The wound smokes and sizzles, but then, impossibly, the flesh begins to knit itself back together, closing the hole as if it were never there. "Foolish boy," she laughs, a dry, rattling sound. "Your iron toys have no power over me in my own home." Then she leaps. Not a human leap, but a sudden jarring hop into the air. Her body convulses. We hear a series of sickening, wet cracks as her bones break and reform under her skin. Her body swells, her spine elongating, her skin hardening and turning a mottled, stony gray. She grows, her head brushing the ceiling beams, her back sprouting a pair of huge, leathery wings. The blind old woman is gone, replaced by a massive winged gargoyle, a queen to the chittering brood that surrounds her. "Now!" I yell. Joe fires his sawed-off, the blast echoing mine. The result is the same. The shot has no effect on the gargoyle queen. The smaller creatures, roused by the violence, launch themselves at us. They are a swarm of claws and teeth. But as they reach us, something is wrong. My hand passes right through one as I try to shove it away. Joe's boot connects with another, but it feels like kicking smoke. They are phantoms. Illusions. The gargoyle queen lets out a deafening shriek and lunges, her stone claws bigger than my head. We dive in opposite directions, scrambling backward out of the cabin, back into the ashen clearing. She follows, her huge form blocking out the light from the doorway, her brood of phantom monsters pouring out around her like a tide of filth. We are in the open now, but we are outmatched. Our weapons are useless. The sun has touched the horizon, its last rays painting the underside of the clouds a bloody red. The moon is rising. "We have to make it to the moonrise!" I shout to Joe, already sprinting for the relative cover of the dead forest. "It's our only chance!" We run, the gargoyle queen and her spectral army in hot pursuit. She is airborne now, her massive wings beating the air with thunderous claps, her shadow passing over us like an omen. The smaller gargoyles flit through the skeletal trees, their whispers joining the wind, promising pain and a place in their master's collection. I can feel it, the fire igniting in my bones, the blessed, agonizing promise of the transformation. It's a race between our human fragility and the rising of the cursed moon. The moment the full silver disk of the moon clears the jagged mountain peak, the world dissolves into pain and power. We don't have the luxury of a slow transformation. We fall, we writhe, we break and reform as the curse takes hold. But this time, fueled by grief and rage, we welcome it. We embrace the beast. As wolves, we are reborn into a world we can dominate. We rise from the ashen ground, no longer prey but predators. Without a sound, we turn and charge, a two-wolf wrecking crew, crashing headlong into the swarm of spectral gargoyles. Our fangs and claws, now imbued with the moon's savage magic, are no longer useless. They are real. We tear through the phantom creatures, and this time they shred like smoke. Each one we destroy dissipates with a faint, sighing hiss, only to reform moments later from the shadows. It's a draining, pointless battle. We can fight them all night, but we can't win. They are infinite, their numbers replenished as quickly as we can cut them down. They are a distraction. The real one has no eyes. The words, my father's last warning, blaze in my mind. In the heat of the fight, I scan the swirling chaos. The huge gargoyle queen screeches orders from above, her eyes glowing with malevolent white light. The swarming minions all have the same burning, hateful eyes. All of them. Then I see it. Perched atop a tall black rock at the edge of the clearing, away from the main fight, is another creature. It's the size of the smaller gargoyles, but it doesn't attack. It just watches, its lipless mouth moving, whispering the commands that reanimate its fallen brethren. And where its eyes should be, there is only smooth, polished, unseeing stone, the real one. I let out a sharp, commanding howl, a sound that cuts through the din of battle. It's not just a cry of rage, it's a tactical order. Joe's head snaps toward me and I jerk my snout in the direction of the rock. He understands instantly. We abandon the swarm. Ignoring the phantom claws that rake our fur, we break from the main fight and make a synchronized, desperate dash for the rock. The minions shriek and try to intercept us, but we plow through their smoky forms. We reach the base of the rock and leap, our powerful legs launching us into the air. We hit the eyeless gargoyle simultaneously. I lock my jaws on its throat. Joe sinks his fangs into the leathery joint where its wing meets its body. The creature doesn't scream aloud. It screams in our minds. A piercing psychic shriek of pure agony and rage explodes behind our eyes, threatening to shatter our sanity. The world whites out in a blast of mental static. The creature thrashes, trying to throw us from the rock, but we hold on with the desperation of the damned. This isn't a battle of muscle anymore. It's a battle of will. Our focused, vengeful fury against its ancient, parasitic evil. My fangs, straining against its stone-like hide, finally break through. I feel them puncture something beneath the hard exterior, something that feels horribly alive and pulses with a sickening warmth. With every ounce of strength I possess, I clamp down. A sound like 1,000 shattering panes of glass rings out, not in the air, but in our souls. The mental shriek cuts off. The eyeless gargoyle on the rock goes rigid, and then, with a final silent exhalation of dust, it crumbles into a pile of gray ash. Instantly, the entire swarm, including the massive gargoyle queen, freezes in midair. Then, as one, they dissolve, their forms unraveling into black smoke and disappearing on the wind. Silence. Joe and I stand on the rock, panting, our lupine bodies heaving. The moon is still high and bright, but the boiling rage inside me, the fire of the beast, is gone. It's not the usual ebbing of the curse at dawn. It's a complete and total absence. The connection is severed. Slowly. Without the usual convulsive agony, the transformation reverses. The wolf recedes. The man returns. We stand naked under the full moon, not as monsters waiting for the sun, but as men. For the first time since I was 16, the moon is just a light in the sky. The curse is broken. The next morning, we climb the dead tree and retrieve my father's ring. We gather his bones from the cage and bury them under a tall, healthy oak at the edge of the now harmless clearing. As we walk out of the gorge, we hear it. A sound I haven't heard since we first entered this damned place. The singing of birds. The forest is alive again. We leave the nightmare behind us, the silence of the mountains broken by the promise of a new day. We are free, but we are not the same men who entered these woods. We are scarred, we are grieving, but the chains are finally, blessedly, gone.